was in a situation quite recently where I had the opportunity to repeat old behavior or learn from past mistakes.
Okay.
And I actually am quite proud of myself in the fact that I chose differently.
Work.
Meaning
So
that
we're not making the same mistakes over it.
no, meaning that like I was speaking to somebody
Mm.
and they showed themselves to be different to what I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you will ignore that and like focus more on the fact that you have feelings for them rather than their behavior. And I cut it off at the first opportunity that I got
Yeah.
rather than needing to be shown 29 times before I cut it off.
Yeah. Well, good job.
Isn't it?
Wait, where's her?
Right? As Oprah says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yes.
Anyway,
Well, congratulations.
thank you so much. I
Yes.
appreciate the support. I also want to say, so that everybody knows, that Z is very hungover today. His eyes are all misty. This is not because of marijuana that is legal in New York. This is because of mixing drinks.
Mixing drinks.
Mixing drinks.
Gin and Prosecco, baby.
Gin and Prosecco.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I know.
tough.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time at least?
It was
Okay.
good. It was a boyfriend's birthday.
Okay. Had you met
So-
them before?
No, this is the
Okay.
first time. It was kind of the merging of groups. It was like
Merging of
a
groups.
cute little
Kiki.
dance party on the roof.
Nice.
And there was a little like in my friend's apartment. There's like a public area that you can rent out. That's like the rooftop, and so it's got roof access. And then there's like a little kitchen and like hangout spots.
Love that.
So yeah, we went over. I went over early, helped set up everything, decorate all cute, and then it was also a caftan party. So shaking ass in a caftan.
That's really cute.
Very fun.
I would have to commit. I'd probably have to put on a grey wig and like
some
glasses.
wigs.
Oh, there's some wigs. I would have to commit.
Yes.
I wouldn't just turn up in like a floral caftan. It would have to be like the whole look.
I had a little heel.
You had a little heel?
I was like, okay, let's at least get a little heel on.
So you were given like White Lotus?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a little bit more sporty. It was a little sporty spice.
Okay.
They're like these like almost croc heels. They're like slides, but they're like a wedge.
Okay.
Chunky wedge. So
Okay. A like geriatric sporty spice.
Exactly.
Love that. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Forgive me if my voice cracks and I'm a little slow today.
A little slow. We can fix that in the edit.
True.
Don't blame it on
edit.
the edit.
Well,
okay.
Welcome to Holding Space.
Okay, New York's top DEI podcast. Happy Pride.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. I believe that like if you're not feeling good, you have to keep telling yourself that you're good until it happens.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think you have to be happy on your way to happy.
Yes.
So
Love it.
yeah.
I'm happy.
Good.
I'm great. You're happy?
I'm happy.
You're
I'm great. Yeah.
Stunning.
Stunning. So it is Pride Month, and obviously it feels like a very different Pride Month.
Yeah.
However, I felt like we still needed to do a few episodes
Yeah.
that would
To the homosexual agenda.
okay, reflect on Pride, reflect on the homo agenda. And so what are we holding space for?
Holding space or tops that care.
What does that mean? For all of the straight people that listen to our podcast, the women who have no idea what that means, what does tops that care actually mean?
Well, I'm hoping everybody knows what a top is to begin with. We're going to say yes. We're going to assume so, right?
Okay.
The giving partner in the positions, if you need that clarity. But tops that care are like considerate tops that like check on your bottom. Also want to like please you, not just please him. We have this like awful concept in the gay community to just please the top and like be used as bottoms. And that just teaches like inconsiderate tops. And so like when you have a top that's like actually interested in pleasing, like having fun and having both partners get pleasure out of it, it becomes a whole different experience. So we love when a top is considerate.
And by the way, I know that you're talking about tops, but speaking of women that might listen to this, I think that there's a topic that they can genuinely relate to.
Yes.
Meaning that like having sex with men who pay no attention to what their needs are, pay no attention to whether they're enjoying it or not, and overly think that they are great in the saddle than they actually are. Or is it the sack? It's the sack, isn't it? It's not the saddle. No, you can't be in a saddle. So it's on a saddle.
Ride a cowboy, I guess.
Run a cowboy.
But bareback.
But
just a second. 2 seconds. All right, my child is...
That's okay. We love a cat break. Yeah, so I feel like we're obviously going to be talking about tops because that's our experience.
Yes.
But I feel like it's a topic that women can relate to too.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Yeah, I was having a conversation, which we'll get into another episode, about straight men, specifically when it comes to women and sex, and how that dynamic is very interesting. So we'll dive into that another episode. But yeah.
So do you think it's rare for you to meet men that actually care about your needs during a sexual encounter?
Yeah, I mean, depends on if it's like a hookup moment or like a date moment, I think.
Okay.
But I do think that generally speaking, it is rare.
It's rare.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's rare?
I think it's because like the way that we maneuver sex
Okay.
as like general community. Like we generally, like bottoms generally like fetishize this idea of being used as like a sex toy, right? And so if you're used to that, you're used to that narrative, then when it comes to a bottom that actually wants to participate and like, get hers Tuesdays, sometimes you don't realize that you have that partner that wants that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a miss when it comes to the actual interaction. So
it's interesting that you say that because obviously, I think the reason why I wanted to relate it to women is because so much of what goes on within the gay community is very much based on heteronormatives, right? And I think that like that idea of, the fact that you can compare, and obviously it's huge generalizations because we're talking about a top and a bottom. If you're verse, it's slightly different, but women and bottoms have that in common, where it's sort of like you're dealing with a guy who doesn't really care about your...
I mean, that also is like, from a porn standpoint, teaches that perspective as well.
Right.
The objectification of women and the objectification of receiving partners. Like that's just the normal thought as well.
I question how much care one is going to give if it's a one-off encounter, because I'm speaking for myself. Like I always liked to, when I used to, I don't as much now, but when I was in my 20s, I would have a lot more what you call one-off encounters with people, right?
Yeah.
And I would always call myself a bottom with a top mentality. So like if I'm done, then this is done. If I don't want to do this, then we're not doing it.
Okay.
If I don't want to cuddle, then you gotta go, kind of thing. So I would like be a bottom with a top mentality, because I think that I quickly realized from having sex quite early, which we're gonna talk about our virginity stories later, but like I quickly realized early in my 20s that I was experiencing this. And so I was just like, how do I get power back in the situation? Because I don't think I want to be versed and I don't want to be top. But I can take that mentality. And I think for a lot of tops, it was shocking. Because they just were not used to somebody that was
using them.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, it was like, what do you mean? Like, you want me to leave? I haven't came yet. I'm like, yeah, but I'm done. This is like, you can go home and do that.
Right.
I don't need to experience that. And so it's something that I do say to some of my bottom friends. I'm like, if you are feeling that way, then it's okay to have a quote unquote top mentality to take some of that power back.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Also the boundaries. I think there's a lot of people pleasers when it comes to bottom mentality.
Well, it's because we have this kind of like conspiracy that there aren't enough tops. So when you find one, it's like, I'll do anything. Never leave me. Like, what can I do? I can say that I haven't struggled to find men that only like to top. I personally haven't. Right? And so I've never needed to feel that way. about
Yeah.
finding what people would, what did they call it in RuPaul's Drag Race? The golden chocolate bar. Finding the golden, like, chocolate bar and, like, it's...
The golden ticket.
The golden ticket.
Bar.
Right. Like, you're not the golden ticket.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's
Kind of
partly
like
that.
Putting them in a privileged position, basically.
Exactly.
And, like, deeming them as, like, this bigger thing.
Well, it's the same
and you
thing.
don't need to do that.
It's the same thing with women. Women behave, or the stereotype is that women behave that there's not enough men, and so we put them on this pedestal where they're allowed to get away with a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to find another one for a long time. But the last time I checked, there are more women in this world than men anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I disagree with that point of view, which is like they're scarce. So when you find one, treat it well.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And I'm sure that there's some taught patriarchal ideas behind all this too. It's like men are supposed to be more important. Like all of those views are like from that like perspective. So there's definitely some
they're so disgusting.
Some unlearning that we all have to do, including homosexuals. So yeah.
I'm so off men at the moment. Okay. So should we move on?
Yeah. Move on.
So let's move on
to Deep or Dumb.
To Deep or Dumb. And today we are opening our diaries, flipping back to pages maybe somewhere between 2006 and 2010.
I don't remember.
Well, it's definitely for me, 2006, 2010.
Okay.
And we are going to be talking about our coming out stories. I feel like I have spoken about my coming out stories so many times, but regardless. And also how we lost our virginity, our innocence.
We're circling back because we got some responses.
Right.
The virginity conversation was actually an interesting one, and we should disclose.
Why do people want to know that?
Because for queer people, it's so different than...
What, virginity?
Yeah.
Oh.
We had to navigate lots of other shit to be able to lose our virginity.
Literal shit.
You know. Ooh. Not me.
So, talk to me. How did you come out? Are you out? Are you in the
I'm actually DL.
Are you DL? Are you the trade of the season?
Yes.
Okay.
Trade of this podcast.
Okay.
Of the DEI podcast. No, I came out in high school. I was actually always made fun of in middle school for being gay, but I had no idea what that entailed. And then in high school, I met a man that was literally everything. And I just became a little infatuated and realized that I was a homosexual.
Who's the man? Where's the man gone?
Still at home.
Oh, is he a straight man?
No.
He's a gay man?
Yeah.
So
I also lost my virginity to him.
So was he infatuated with you too?
No.
So I'm sorry, I've got loads of questions. So let's roll back to, there's this man that has made you feel like you are gay, right? Who's this man, without obviously saying his name, in relation to you? Because right now, the way that you've explained it, it sounds like your teacher.
Oh, no. Not at all. No.
Clear this up. Who's this man? You said man. So it made it seem like this person was older than you.
Oh, no. Same grade, same age. I'm talking about man because I guess we were kind of kids, but...
How old were you?
Oh, 16, 17.
This is not a man.
No.
It's a teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you find this older teenager?
No, he wasn't even older. He was my age.
Okay,
anyway.
where did you find this manly-looking teenager?
Friends of friends. We were all in the same friend group. Yeah, I mean, we just like, he was always around. And I was like, we would be like, it started off innocent. It started off as like, I'm just so happy to see this beautiful face. And like, we would get to a party and like run to each other and like scream, hugging. Like, that's the kind of vibe that it was.
So you weren't out at this time?
Kind of, but kind of
ish.
Yeah,
kind of
like,
ish out.
My friends knew.
Everybody kind of knew that's gay.
Yes.
Right?
But if somebody asked me, I'd be like, fuck off.
Okay, and let's talk about that question for a second.
Okay.
Let's circle back.
Okay.
That question used to give me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
And you know that it's coming. It's like, Can I ask you a question?
No.
Are you
A
are
homosexual.
you gay?
Do you like boys?
I just like you just know the question's
Yeah.
coming up at some point. That
Yeah.
question used to give me anxiety.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've this beautiful person that used to hang at parties and you used to see them and you used to run to each other with so much elation and happiness.
Yeah.
And then what happened? What's next?
They started dating a friend in the group. So that was a whole phase. And then I
How
started,
did you feel when they started dating a friend in the group?
obviously, not great. And then I had somebody who liked me, another man that liked me.
In the same group.
Yeah, similar group, little adjacent, but
Okay.
part of it. And so I kind of unfortunately used him as like I can get a little bit of gratification from pursuing something with this man, but it's not the man that I want. So unfortunately,
What does gratification mean?
like relationship, like feeling the fantasy
Oh, okay, fine.
of
Okay.
a homosexual relation.
Okay.
Not like I didn't lose my virginity.
So
but
emotional
yeah,
intimacy with
yeah.
this guy
We wrote
who really
notes back
liked
and
you,
forth.
you wrote
Yeah,
notes,
yeah.
and this guy shows you some attention, made you
Yeah.
feel good, while the person that you had on your wall was in a situation with somebody else.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then at some point disappeared from the friend group. We won't get
Okay.
into that because that's a whole separate story. But so honestly, I don't actually remember. He is the first person that I was like into. But I had also looked at porn and stuff at this point, so we knew that we were homosexual that way.
How did you access your porn? Where did you get your porn from?
Family computer
Family computer.
through
Where was
Pornhub.
where was the
probably.
family computer based?
In the living room.
That must have been interesting.
I was caught, and that's how I had to come out of my bed. My mom came out one night. It was late night, and she knew something. She literally told me, she was like, "I knew you were doing something wrong." She comes out. So the computer is at the end of the hallway where all the bedrooms are. So it was kind of a bold move to be doing this right there. But everybody was asleep. It was like midnight, whatever. So I was like, nobody's waking up for this, right? Headphones, all that jazz. Anyway, she comes out of her bedroom. She had a feeling something was up, and she doesn't come further than the end of the hallway. She just leans on the wall and says, "It's time for bed." So because I also couldn't close out all of the pages that I had open at this point. So I'm like,
Oh, you had a few pages open.
after,
Okay, fine.
when you get the journey going,
Okay,
it's like,
fine.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, I don't know. So I went to bed, not sure if she knew what was on the screen, if she didn't, because she was very nonchalant with it. And then my dad woke me up the next day early and was like, "You're coming to work with me." And I was like, had a little car ride. And he asked me like what I was doing, da da da. I'm pretty sure I was grounded. I also probably made the excuse that I was just looking at underwear ads, as one
That's very
does, as a
1980s of
baby
you.
gay does.
That is very 1982 of you. I was just looking at Calvin Klein ads.
Looking at underwear.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for me, that kind of started the journey of church getting involved, therapy getting involved.
What therapy?
I didn't do conversion therapy, but I went to therapy to like figure out queerness
What
and
therapy?
the Bible.
What therapy?
I went to like a therapist, like a single
A
therapist,
therapist.
and talked to him about.
Who told you to go to therapy?
I wanted to go,
You wanted to go to therapy.
and my parents were
encouraging
you
to go to therapy to work out what?
to try and figure out queerness and Christianity, basically.
So acknowledging that you are gay,
Yeah,
but acknowledging that you also have been raised Christian,
yeah,
and how those two things meet.
like wanting to correct what was considered wrong, basically.
Right.
So, like,
And-
how do we change the behavior of homosexuality within you?
And how
from
was
a
that
religious standpoint?
experience?
It was interesting because because I did want to go. Like I was still trying to figure it out. At that point, I was still a Christian woman, and I definitely wanted to figure out how they could be pieced together if they could. And so I wanted to go to therapy. I had moments of at church praising and crying and like all the the Christian journey as we know it. The hardest part that I think, or the most irritating part when I look back, was like having everybody at church know my business and having that be what they would ask
Why did
me.
they know?
It was like my pastor, like my mom and dad would talk. I don't know if I talked to my pastor. He was like our youth pastor, and so we would talk about like what we're going through, and I would have
What
like
do you mean?
one-on-ones.
What do you mean?
We talk about
Hi.
gay feelings.
Hello, Pastor
Yeah.
Albert.
I met with him like separately as well, like had lunches with him to talk about it.
Explain to me how this conversation goes. Hello, Pastor Albert. Nice to see you. What happens next?
Digging into my memory archive right now.
Please get that folder out.
It's kind of like if you have an addiction, like how are you doing? How are you doing with your addiction?
Yeah, but
are you like,
no, it's not the same because he's talking to you as a how old?
I don't know.
16, 17, 18 person, right?
Oh, me.
Yeah, 16, 17, 18-year-old person.
Yeah.
And we're talking about sexuality here,
Yeah.
right? And so I want to understand, you're talking to somebody that, yes, is your pastor,
Yeah.
but in some ways is still a stranger.
No, I mean, at this point, we'd known each other for
Yes.
ages. Yeah.
And so did you see him as family?
Not as family, but like as counsel.
You saw him as counsel?
Yeah.
And so what kind of counsel was he giving you?
Um, Basically encouragement to like follow the Lord.
What does that mean?
Pray on it. Pray on being gay.
What I'm trying to
like,
get at was,
yes.
was he giving you a direction of where, once you go through this journey of praying, where to land? Like, what?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the goal was to not be gay.
Okay.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course, of
Okay.
course. Or to be gay, but to like
Not
have
touch on it.
such a relationship with God that you no longer have the interest in pursuing
You know,
anything gay.
this is my problem with this because I also grew up in the church,
Yeah.
right? I used to go to church on Sunday, stay for youth club,
Mhm.
and then on Monday go to, I can't even remember what it was called, but it was another version of youth club that
Yeah.
we used to go, like adult version youth club, whatever it was. But anyway, when I started to recognize that I was a gay lord, I started to have problems with some of the things that I'd learned. And
Yeah.
this coincided with study that I was doing in religious education at school. And the way that they study religion is very different from how you're taught in a church, right?
Yeah.
It's more of an analytical point of view
Yes.
on each religion. And we happen to be talking about Christianity at that time.
Yeah.
And so, regardless of whether it was the timing thing or whatever, you know, if I had a question, they would say that you're allowed to ask it.
Yeah.
So I would ask it during the service.
Okay.
So one of my first questions was, I don't understand that if you're a murderer or if you're a terrible person, but you believe in Jesus, you get to go to heaven. But if you are a great person, you feed the hungry, you know, you adopt children in need, but you don't believe in Jesus, you go to hell. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So I asked that question in the middle of the service.
How was the response?
Everybody looked at it.
Of course.
So there was that. And then the second thing,
Wait, did you get an answer?
talk to me after the service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a great question. Talk to me after the service, which I didn't think was good enough answer for me. And then my second issue with, and this was probably the reason why I am more spiritual than I would say Christian at this moment in time. My second issue with it was that I was looking through the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament.
Yeah.
Flipping through all the pages, frantically trying to find a hierarchy of sins. Show me where I can find that homosexuality is at the top of the pyramid of sins.
It's not.
Because I've read that you're not allowed to sleep next to your partner when she's on her period. You're not allowed to wear mixed materials. You're not allowed to eat shellfish. And you're not allowed to lay with men. So how comes you can go to Burger and Lobster and you can sleep next to your wife who's on her period, but I can't be gay? I didn't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely, I mean, I remember researching that as well. And there was two separate, because of the Old Testament versus the New Testament, there's different clauses. Like,
but New Testament doesn't mention gay at all, does it?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up again.
No, sorry. The Old Testament doesn't mention gay at all. The Old Testament doesn't mention gay at all.
That has all of the crawfish or whatever, shellfish. And
but my point still stands. Like, there's no hierarchy of sin. A sin is a sin. So therefore, if you want to have the conversation of being gay is a sin, then the fact that you just had, was it clam chowder, is also a sin too. Like, I could not get an answer on either of those questions that was satisfactory. So therefore, I felt like you had no right to have an opinion on any part of my life, not just gay. Anything that I chose to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other issue is like the focus, right? There's so much focus on gayness and gay lifestyle as if it's a choice, but there's also the reality like divorce technically there's a clause that's like you can only divorce your husband if he's like abusing you or something like that. I don't remember what the actual clause is. I think that's what it is. But divorce within the church there's a lot of divorced people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not sitting there having sermon after sermon after sermon about the fact that you're now a terrible person. So yeah, I think the balance of like picking and choosing is just crazy. Um, yeah. So, but yeah.
So coming out,
Yeah.
I came out when I was 15
Okay.
/ 16.
Mm.
I was on the cusp of being 16, I think.
Okay.
And similar to your story, I've been called gay for forever.
Yeah.
And I think the first boy I actually fancied was the animated version of Hercules. I was like, oh my God, he's like...
Yeah, he's a hottie.
I was like, that Hero to Zero song?
Uh-huh. Zero to hero.
Zero to Hero song?
Zero to
Hero! So my dad was like, why are you watching this video over and over again? And I was like, why am I watching this video over and over again?
Sexy ass me.
And I tried. I was like, no, I'm not gay. I'm straight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear, these new Air Force Nikes, and I'm gonna wear academics tracksuit. And when people say, who do you fancy? I'm gonna say Angelina Jolie.
Homosexual.
But then I was like, she's just really pretty. Yeah. I don't want to touch her. She's just really pretty. And so, I 15, 16, and I was already seeing this guy who used to drive. He was slightly older. He was 17. And we had met on this platform called BGC, which was Black Gay Chat. I met a lot of the men that I had first encounters with there.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends that I still have as, maybe they're not as close, but definitely associates. I met from there. And anyway, I decided that the best time to come out would be my uncle's birthday / family reunion.
Okay.
Because I was like, I'm just going to do this once. You're not going to get the opportunity to pick up the phone and call each other, because I'm just going to do it now.
To everybody all at once.
Everyone all at once. And so,
love it.
And so I said to the guy that I was dating, I was just like, you can start driving in the UK when you're 17. This is when the event is. I'm going to put a bag in your
Come pick me up.
boot. I'm going to tell you the time. If things pop off, then I'm gonna go. I couldn't get a read on how they would react.
Yeah.
Just because everyone knew that I was quite effeminate. Like, since I was a kid, I would come down the stairs in my nan's wig and heels, kind of thing. That was who I was, right? And so I felt that there was a difference between speculation to finally knowing something, right?
Okay. Yeah.
For definite.
Yeah.
And I also was like, at the end of the day, my family are Jamaican, and there are still people within Jamaica who are incredibly homophobic. And I had been exposed to a lot of homophobia in my family, in front of me, through music, through films, constantly saying that being gay is wrong. Basically, go to hell and be set on fire.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I did need to have a contingency plan, because I think knowing for definite, there's a change that potentially could happen.
Yeah.
So anyway, I waited. I was like, let me be respectful. Let him at least be sung happy birthday. Let him at least eat a slice of cake. But after that, tick-tock, time is ticking. People are going to leave soon. Let's do this. It's now or never. So my auntie was doing a dance, let's go to the middle of us. I always knew that once she's had enough whiskeys, she would do that. So I went to the middle and I was like, come. So she was like, I'm coming. So I was like, I need to leave soon. It wasn't a regular for me to go to at 15, 16 to go places.
Okay.
So I was like, I need to leave soon. And she was like, oh, okay, where you going? I was just like, oh, my boyfriend's outside and he wants to take me out, so I'm gonna go.
Wow, straight to the point.
Yeah.
What did she say?
And she was like, there was what felt like the longest minute of silence.
Yeah.
And then she was just like, who do you know that drives? You're 15, 16 years old. I don't understand. And
Funny.
so it was obviously, what I'm saying is that it was not necessarily
a big deal.
Yeah, about the boys.
Yeah, your mom.
Yeah. This is my, it was not about the boys. It was about
driving.
It was about like, who do you know that's so old that is driving a car,
Yeah.
right? At 15 years old. And yeah, my nan, I never really didn't, I felt like after I did that, I wasn't going to go, I refused to do this. Like, I'm coming out to each person. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't feel like it's fair that we have to do that.
Yeah.
But I remember when I turned 18, I was spending a lot of, as around the time I was interning at Harvest Bazaar, and I was staying with my best friend Joseph at the time.
Yeah.
In like a borough that's very far from where my nan lived.
Yeah.
I remember she calling me like randomly and was like, "Hey, like I haven't seen you," and I was like, "Yeah, like I'm staying with Joseph, etc." She's like, "So I want to say something." I was like, "What?" She's like, "I want you to know that just because you are a gay doesn't mean I don't love you. So don't not come around because you are a gay, because I love gays. I work with them. They're so lovely." So yeah, that was that conversation. We had. So, so yeah, that was my coming out story.
That's
Quite
cute.
different from yours. So when did you stop being the Virgin Mary and forsake all others and become a floozy?
Floozy. I'm a floozy now.
Scarlet letter on your
Tramp stamp.
paw.
Right there. I don't remember if it was college or if it was high school, end of high school. But I was house sitting, and this man that I was infatuated with, same man from earlier, came to drop something off. I don't remember what it was. It was probably an excuse to have this man come over. And he was actually about to leave. I gave him a tour of the house, and then he was about to leave. And there was this little flirty moment of like eyeballs, like, "You really gonna leave?" And like, "Oh, don't do that. Don't look that way." Da 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 da. Da. And then we had sex.
Okay, so let's roll back again. Okay, so Mr. McDreamy is giving you the eyes.
I'm giving him the
You're
eyes.
giving him the eyes.
Yes.
And Mr. McDreamy is returning back with some eyes. No eyes? When did Mr. McDreamy lock onto the eyes that you were giving him?
When he was literally at the door about to leave.
Okay, fine. So Mr. McDreamy is finally realizing that you were giving him the eyes
The go ahead.
at the door. You're giving him the green light, and he has to decide whether he's going to drive through or not, right? Explain to me, and this will make sense when I'm talking to you about my losing my virginity, but talk to me about, you just went from, we were giving each other the eyes, and then we had sex. But how did that sex happen as somebody that has never had sex with a guy before? Like, how did you know what to do?
Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
I had no idea. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure it started off with like making out and like that whole thing, and I don't remember every little detail, but making out and going to the bedroom. And then I had no idea what I was doing.
Did Mr. McDreamy?
Yes, a little bit more experience.
Okay.
I don't know how much experience at this point, but a little bit more experienced. And I actually remember being like kind of shattered by the after sex. I had first of all, because I had no idea, so there was no cleaning out, there was no preparation, there was nothing like that. Had no idea. Was it an awful experience? No. But I didn't know that that was a factor in the sex conversation at this point. So like any sort of smell, any sort of like wetness, anything, I have no idea what to expect. So I don't know what the post feeling is supposed to feel like. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. Also, sex ed, step your pussy up. But and I also nobody came, and I remember that being an existential crisis for me because I was like, one, what was the point of this? Two, is he not attracted to me? Am I not attracted to him? Then three, spiraling that into, do I even like guys anymore? Am I actually not gay because I didn't come
Internalized all of
to
it.
the sex? Yes. Yeah, so it was a whole spiraling moment. And then also from a Christian standpoint, being like, oh no, I just did this thing.
Oh no.
And it wasn't even as gratifying as I had thought that it would be. I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't think it was supposed to be that. Also, it's not that the sex was bad or anything like that. Like at this point, there was no knowledge of bad or good. So like that's not like this isn't a
I don't
performance
know.
thing.
I don't know if anyone's losing for their virginity, we're looking for bad or good.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that is very like high expectations if you're looking
Yes.
for bad or good. I mean, I think probably for most of us it's bad if you
Yeah.
are going to give it any sort of description.
Yeah.
But like anyone that said my first time
Was phenomenal.
was phenomenal, congrats. But I don't think it is common. Right.
What about you? Tell me about yours.
So
Hope we lose our
before
virginities.
I lost my virginity, I, similar to you, had indulged in a lot of pornography.
Uh-huh.
And I started to, when I started to feel like I was going to want to do this,
Yeah.
because I was on BGC for a while,
Okay.
and it would always, the conversations would always get to the point where I needed to meet these guys.
Yeah. Of course.
And I would then go make some reason for why I couldn't meet them.
Oh.
And so I was like,
Oh.
I need to stop doing that.
Okay.
And you have to remember, I'm fucking 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, I need to stop doing that. And I need to like pick one and decide to do this.
Do it.
Right? So I had been indulging a lot of pornography by then. And you know, in every single porn video, for the most part, it just goes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goes in.
Yep.
Just goes in.
Just slides right in.
Just slides right in. And so a lot of, I mean, they do now, but I remember back then, they wouldn't even show them using lube.
Yeah.
It was just magic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And every size goes in.
Yep. Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I use the toilet.
Yeah.
And what comes out must be able to go in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I met some guy called Marvin. Shit. Anyway, I met some guy.
Edit that out.
And he wasn't that much older than me. I immediately was like, okay, this could potentially be the person that I do it with. I didn't want to have my first time with somebody that was that much older than me.
Yeah. Good.
And,
for you.
And he was like, oh, like, have you had sex before? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. And he was just like, really? He was like, you know, I'm kind of big, you know. I was like, don't worry.
Ooh.
I was just like, I know what I'm doing. I got it like that.
So how'd it go? Get to it. Get to it. So did he use lube? Was he a considerate top? That's what I need to know. Was it spit and only spit?
So I started panicking.
Oh no.
Because
you saw it and you were like, shit.
No, because as I said, all sizes go in. So when it wasn't going in, I was like, something's wrong with my hole. Something's wrong with my hole. Something's wrong with my hole. Maybe what goes out doesn't go in. What's going on? Do I need to see a doctor? Does it need to be opened? Is this like foreskin where it needs to be like stitched open? Kind of thing. Like I was like, I don't understand. It's not going in.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there going, this has never happened before, Marvin. This has never happened before.
Marvin's like, bitch, I know.
He was like,
you virgin ass.
He was like,
bitch.
Is this your first time? I was
like, oh no. Oh.
So yeah, that was my first time. He took me back to the bus stop.
Did he? So it did happen. It did happen?
Well, I didn't want to do it because it was like, I mean, he was packing, so it was very painful.
Did you actually? Okay, so you did start the journey.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I was like, it's not going in.
Yeah.
It's not going in. Why is it not going in? Why is it so painful? Everything that I've seen, it just slips right in. Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, do I need to go to the doctor tomorrow, see the general practitioner, ask him why it's not going in?
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I remember going on a run the day after and being like, what's wrong with my heart? It feels like it's gonna fall out. Literally jogging down the street after my first sexual experience, being like, I don't know if something's gonna come out. I don't know if my booty hole is gonna come. Like, I don't know. I'm like, never had that feeling before. So you're like, is this wrong? Is this right? Is this, am I supposed to feel this way? I had no idea.
I'll be very honest, and we're getting very honest here. I definitely did panic about like STIs afterwards. Like I did panic about HIV and things like that, because like I didn't have an understanding of what it was.
Yes.
Like I knew what it was because I'd seen it on television, on soaps, but I knew that we didn't use a condom. And I was like, oh well, I must have fucked up. And so I remember I didn't get tested for a long time after that. I wasn't having sex, though,
Yeah. Okay.
but I didn't get tested because I didn't want to have sex for a while after that, because I was like, I was like, basically in my mind, I was like, that was traumatizing, and I now am living with an STI.
Baby Lee.
No, I know.
Baby Lee.
Literal hypochondriac.
Oh yeah.
So
I definitely had plenty of panics.
Because also,
Many a
obviously,
time.
we weren't living in like prep world.
Yeah.
And we weren't, as you said, sex ed weren't teaching you about that. And so like, and also I was part of a community in London where there was a still big stigma against HIV and AIDS, and people would use it as slurs against each other. And so, I panicked.
Yeah. I mean, as a young baby gay does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the first time going to the free clinic for the first time. But
Oh, I do. I was certain I had everything.
yeah, I mean, I do remember the feeling of like feeling so much shame that I had to be there. And I at some point I definitely debriefed with my mom, probably years later, but no, it might not have been years later. It may have been in college when we were a little bit more open about talking about it. But yeah, anyway, awful feeling as a baby gay, not knowing what to expect and how to go about it, and also not having access to some of those like prep and stuff. Yeah, the dog eat dog world out there.
It's a dog eat dog world.
We need some sex ed. So
please, I think that is like, I mean, I don't know about America, because obviously you guys don't even want books that have like certain words in it anymore. So I don't know if you're going to get comprehensive queer sexual education. I'd love for one day to hear that there is, just so that gay kids that are coming out, although, you know, I think that they're slightly in a luckier position, meaning that there's slightly more information out there than there was for us. It's it's more easily accessed.
yeah,
I was even thinking about when you were talking about porn, I was like, you know, to find porn, it was like ducking and diving and using a laptop and making sure you cleared the history and having to put in your age before you could enter the site, and realizing that you have to pay to watch it and only can watch 30 seconds, and that's not long enough. And
I mean, scared you were going to download a virus.
I'm not going to download a virus on your computer. Whereas now it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
So easily accessible.
Twitter,
done. Pinterest, everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mercy.
So, moving on to Dear Z and Lee.
So, I am trying to enter my bottoming era, but have had a hard time opening up. Do you have any tricks to help prepare? This could be cleaning out or tightness, like trying to prepare yourself for a larger dick.
I was going to start a bottom support group for this topic. And then I decided not, because I've got better things that I can do with my time.
But like this, you can talk about it here.
But you know, I think that it is a journey for some people.
Yeah.
I know people that are my age that are still struggling with it. And I know people that it felt like as soon as they started having sex, it was never an issue for them, right?
Yeah.
And also you get older and you're sort of like, oh God, I have IBS, and I've got other issues that I didn't have when I was in my 20s. I like, for me, bloating. I can't really have sex in the mornings anymore. That's like a no.
No, yeah.
That's like I
mean, makes sense. Your body's literally processing everything that you eat in.
But I used to be able to do it in the morning, and now it's a no.
That's crazy.
So anyway,
even with fiber,
I take fiber twice a day.
Oh,
yeah. So what I've used is I swear by them. They are on Amazon or any sex shop. You can find butt plugs that are of different sizes.
Yep.
And I found those to be incredibly handy.
Okay.
I think if it is somebody who is a one-time encounter or somebody that you are sleeping with on a repeated basis, you can use those to kind of get yourself comfortable before sleeping with the person.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the steps that we can do as a community is recognize that you don't all have to be size queens.
True.
Sometimes
Not for everybody.
11's not for you. Double digits are not for you, baby. And that's okay. Because some people don't have double digits. And that's okay.
Right. Find comfort
And
in what your body likes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
I think that, like, as bottoms, it feels like our mission is to get into double digits and then as far as high as possible.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way. I don't always want to climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I'm sort of just like, give me a nice, enjoyable, average penis.
Yeah.
Where I can have an enjoyable, more than average time.
Yeah. The experience more so than the...
I'm not... I don't need to prove that I can... I mean, I have.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that those have always been the most enjoyable experiences for me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I think that everybody's body is different, and so like pushing to have a foot in your hole is just not for everybody. So, like just listen to your body and figure it out.
Yeah.
In terms of the preparing tricks that I use, I actually, if I know I'm going to be sleeping with somebody who's a little larger, and also just for clean out purposes, I actually take a smaller dildo while I clean out. And so and I use that to make sure, one, that I'm fully cleaned out, and then two, it kind of like preps the between me down there.
Oh yeah, same.
For like what's about to come.
Same.
And so it like kind of gets you a little...
Same. If I know that I'm sleeping with someone a little bit larger, I'd probably use my butt plug for an hour or two prior.
Yeah.
And then I'd go and douche properly.
Yep.
And then I just have peace of mind that like you're ready to play and that you're not like deciding that you want to like not play.
Yeah.
And and it's not going to be an uncomfortable experience.
Right. I also like, another thing for sex education, I think we need to talk about toys in sex education, because a lot of sex education is centered around abstinence in the States, which isn't really helpful in terms of sex education. But if they were to introduce the toy conversation, it would actually help with abstinence.
Yeah.
Because you can learn your body.
Self-pleasure.
Yeah, self-pleasure. You can learn your body. You can understand good and bad feelings within...
They're still using bananas in sex ed.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But I suggest getting some sort of dildo or some sort of toy to kind of help prepare you for sex.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you're at in your journey.
Yeah.
So sometimes the metal, for people who are actually a little tighter, the metal ones slide in a little easier. So if you can get a little vibrator that's a little bullet, or kind of a smoother dildo, that can be a little helpful. Yeah, write in and let us know how it went.
Write in and let us know how it went. The point, if you do want to write in, it is holdingspacepod@gmail.com. And it doesn't always have to be a question. It could be you letting us know how your week went. If you've had a crazy experience that you'd like to share. Or if you just want to give a live and direct review of what you think of the show. I'd be happy to read that out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or if you feel like we're missing something, let us know.
Let us know.
We're ready to go.
We're ready to go.
Or if you want to fact check our Christian biblical
Yeah, for all the Christians out there. I'm sorry if we gave any facts about Christianity that were incorrect. Yeah.
We can do a little research post.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, I will. I will, because I'm kind of ashamed that I don't remember some of these things. So
it's okay. It means my brain is working.
Really, thanks for joining us on Holding Space.
Bye, guys.
Bye.